The United States, just like the majority of nations on Earth, has a rich history.
Whoa. What is that?
It's my movie trailer voice.
But we're not in a movie.
It's a documentary, it's pretty close.
Well, not too many documentaries have an intro that sounds something like James Earl Jones. I don't really think that's necessary.
Fine. The United States, just like the majority of nations on Earth, has a rich history.
There we go, that's better.
Okay, alright.
Within this history of wars, industry, patriotism, and victory are many tales of music.
Music has been an integral part of every phase of the growth of the United States of America.
Early colonial times did not include much music or song. This is likely because most of the colonists' time and energy was spent simply trying to, well, not die. So between wars with Native Americans, starvation, and rampant disease, they had their work cut out for them. While it's certain that tunes and instruments were brought over from England and the rest of Europe, we don't have many records of them. In 1640, the Bay Songbook was printed. It was the first book printed in the colonies, which shows how the art of song was dominated by religious themes in the early colonies.
Some of the first substantial records come from Spanish colonies in the Americas.
Miren a Pepino, miren cómo se mueve, como un león, tras un ratón.
Anyways, Jose Mauricio Nunez Garcia was a well-known choir director at the Cathedral of Rio de Janeiro, where he was an acting priest. Requiem Mass and Mass of Saint Cecilia were two of his most famous works. In the Spanish colonies, they only used percussion with the occasional flute. Their music was more rhythm rather than tune, based with the musical scale only including 5 notes.
Well, all you need is 4 notes for most pop songs.
British psalm tune books were some of the only texts with songs that colonists used early on. Many Americans did not even care for music. In fact, the Puritans would not even allow instruments and would only permit singing if it was for divine worship. What a bunch of squares.
Native Americans, or Indians, as they were referred to by the colonists and Europeans, thanks for that, Columbus, had their own forms of music. As is widely known, Native Americans were, and still are, a very ritualistic people, and their uses of music and song strongly reflected that.
Most Native American songs were very ritualistic and were centered around legends and chants for their spirits and gods. Although Native American music was important to them, the wars with colonists largely destroyed their traditions. Most colonists were too concerned with survival and profit to worry about their enemies' traditions.
For years, the only real composers of music were European. In America, there were no orchestras to perform the music, or even event halls to perform in. Composing music was considered significantly less important than farming, building, fighting, or surviving. I wonder why.
But finally there was a surge in music. Composers, as well as other creatives, began to immigrate into the U.S., and many homegrown composers began to sprout. The U.S. began to be seen as a potentially creative country, and not so backwoodsy after all. Composers such as William Billings and James Lyon helped introduce mainstream music into the American society.
Commoners were known to sing many songs, especially drinking songs, that would later become ballads in the wartime, or even be written during the war. After 1750, though, concerts, ballad operas, and music performances at home became much more of a norm. I want to know who wrote the word commoners. Sounds so pretentious.
One of the most well-known supporters of music and instrumentalists was the late, great T.J.
Tommy Lee Jones!
That is T.L.J. And no, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was given a gentleman's education, which included learning how to play the fiddle or violin. Up until the start of the Revolutionary War, Jefferson was known to practice fiddling at least 3 hours a day.
3 hours a day? Maybe if we would have spent a little more time on our Constitution, we wouldn't have 27 amendments.
Jefferson's greatest goal was to have his very own orchestra, but unfortunately for him, the revolution got in the way. In 1779, he was able to gather some paroled British officers to perform at Monticello, his desired location for his orchestra, but they were far from an established group. Even when in office, Thomas Jefferson wrecked his own finances in order to purchase more instruments for his family and collection.
The American Revolution was a war filled with songs and ballads. Both the British and Patriots used song to convey emotion and protest. Many songs were put on newspapers, periodical issues, original ballad sheets, and passed by word of mouth. Most companies had a poet who would try to help lift the spirits and honor the fallen. The songwriter would write happy songs of victory and sad songs of respect. The unofficial anthem of the American cause was entitled Chester, a song written by William Billings. The lyrics claimed that God was backing the Patriots, even claiming that God was a New England God.
Weird Al was not the first to try remixing other artists' works. White singers who redid African American tracks were not either. America has actually been ripping off songs since it was a colony. Songs were often rewritten with lyrics that would reflect the current state of the battles or war. Popular British songs were especially twisted around the time of the American Revolution, with songs such as Yankee Doodle, a song originally sang to mock Americans written by Richard Shuckburgh, becoming a well-known song of the Patriots.
The stanza that most people remember, Yankee Doodle came to town riding... Nope, I'm gonna sing it. Yankee Doodle came to town riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni, is estimated to have originated around 1764. Yankee was a derogatory term for New Englanders, and macaroni was a floppy hairstyle. The colonists even forced the captured British prisoners to dance to the remix song at the end of the war.
New composers began surging into the Americas following the Revolution. The newly formed United States began to see its identity of a land of opportunity, with new freedoms enticing a variety of peoples.
The country saw a surge of religious ideals through the Great Awakening, and the religious monopoly on music was even further enforced. Of course, there were songs that were directed toward politics and even some activism, but most musical performances had Christian roots, at the very least.
Prime examples of this were the slave songs.
Working on plantations, yeah, yeah, yeah. Working on plantations, yeah.
Through religion and song, slaves were able to both endure the hardships they faced and protest without direct conflict. In what became known as Negro spirituals, slaves would sing songs. These songs were normally based on stories from the Old Testament. Some of their first known uses of music were in their ritualistic Lundu dances, later becoming the urban dance known as Mayiyi, which were originally considered erotic.
Song was incredibly important during the Civil War. Foot regiments often had fifers and drummers, and a new style called harmonimusik, where there was a group of 6 or 8 musicians, became popular on the battlefield. Field musicians were a vital part of every regiment. These musicians were in the most important part of any war, communication. They were responsible for communicating orders from the commanders to the troops that they led.
Many pieces were known by just one side, which allowed for covert communication. Songs like Fixed Bayonets, Rally, Forward, and Retreat were obvious to soldiers of what their commander were trying to convey. Commanders relied heavily on their oral reconnaissance and placed in high importance on these musical signals. Music was also used to deceive the opposition. Many times, one side would trick the other into falsely believing their whereabouts in order to have a sneak attack.
I'm a slithery little sneaky snake. Music also played a huge role in the everyday life of a Civil War soldier. Musicians were used to call to order every daily activity pertaining to the regiment. On both sides of the war, a strict schedule was kept with the help of music. Soldiers were woken with the sounds of reveille and were sent to their beds with the sounds of tattoo. Appropriately named Peas on a Trencher and Roast Beef called them into their favorite event of the day, meals. Ironically, that's also my favorite part of the day. Whenever they were going about their daily routine, they were always listening to the sounds of fatigue and drill, which told them, unfortunately, it was time to get back to work.
The North and South were clearly very divided on near everything, including music. The cultural ideas of the differing sides was displayed through the songs. The Northern music business was much more developed than the rural South's. This caused many of the South songs to be just ripped off from the North. So evidently, the South has always been late to the game culturally. The songs played on the idea that one side was superior to others due to their heritage, using blatant name-calling to show the other side was the lesser.
Although both sides claimed the other's blood was impure, the South especially claimed their blood was superior to the North's. In one tune, they claimed Northerners are a motley crew with foreign Franks, attempting to prove the Southerners are the truest Americans.
Frank. Music has evolved an incredible amount since its original invention.
You can see how it has changed and been used even since the birth of the United States, one of the youngest countries on Earth.
From being solely European, percussion songs in Spanish colonies, an absence of song in Puritan sects,
To slave songs of hope, new composers and concerts, and more songs and codes.
Music has not only been part of American history,
It has helped shape American history.
music's cool.
music sucks. It really, really sucks.
He sings.
Yes.
Irony.
Okay, it's rolling.
British
And
song.
action.
Hey!
You didn't say action.
I never say action.
Say action so I can go.
I don't know if I've ever said action.
And action.
Action Jackson.
And action.
Action Jackson.
Yee.
Shut up, Drew. Quiet on the set. And action.
Oh, wait, Elishiba, stop. You, whichever one it is,
You gotta
stop
get
playing
used to
on
saying
my
it
words.
afterwards.
Stop playing on my words.
This is her word.
This is my words. I'm female narrator too.
I know, I was reading the part of female narrator 1.
No, somebody's been writing "Hey Elishiba" in my words. Stop it. Commanders relied heavily on their aural
What? What?
Is that supposed to be oral? Aural reconnaissance?
Aural?
Aural? Oral reconnaissance?
What does aural mean, Drew? Look that up.
Jefferson was known to practice fiddling at least 3 hours a day.
Good lord. He is a no-lifer, isn't he?
He is a no-lifer?
No-lifer. He has no life. He's a no-lifer. Okay, let me let me come up with something. Just give me a second.
never heard of that.
He's a no-lifer. Okay, anyways.
Aural?
Aural. Okay.
Aural reconnaissance?
Aural. Didn't say oral.
Aural?
No, don't put more emphasis on the first syllable than the last syllable.
Aural.
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 Aural?
There you go.
Aural.
Not aural.
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 Let it flow. Rolling. Action. Action!
Music also played a huge role in the everyday lives of a Civil War soldier. Musicians were used to call... Is that loud?
Yes.
Commanders relied heavily on their aural reconnaissance and placed a high importance on these musical signals.
Importance.
What I say? Importance?
Importance.
Importance. Did you just call her a scrub?
Hey, it's recording now.
Scrub.
It's inappropriate. The United... Hey.
Okay, I'm ready this time.
Am I peaking? I am peaking. Crap.
Peeking.
Audio is too loud. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. That's better.
Whee!
Well, you're off to the side. Okay. I'm going to cut it. Recording. The United States, just like the majority of nations on Earth, has a rich history.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What is that?
It's my movie trailer voice.
This isn't a movie trailer.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, it's a documentary that doesn't involve. God, who? James Earl Jones. Okay, there we go.
Frickin' Frank.
He's a slithery little sneaky snake.
There's a slithery little sneaky snake.
Please put that in.
Just look at his tongue.
Please put that
Frank the Snake. Snaky Frank.
Frank the stinky snake. He's a stinky little slithery little snaky snake.
And thus ends our documentary. Thank you for watching.
We're back to this?
Yeah.